get it, do you? You think this whole thing's a joke, a big meme, huh? Well, we're not talking about my Fallout 4 review today. We're talking about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. That's right. You thought it was a whole meme, but I'm making a whole video on it. I've talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks on why Mass Effect 3's multiplayer needs to return through the Legendary Edition. And then BioWare had the audacity to say that they were not going to do any such thing because it would require the same amount of effort as bringing back Mass Effect 1 with all of its bells and whistles. Well, guess what? In today's video, we defend the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer and state a case as to exactly why it needs to return. So, with that, let's pass it over to Professor Maddie, who's much nicer than myself.
Okay, so you want to know what makes Mass Effect Mass Effect? Is it the story choices? Is it the multiplayer? Is it debating Miranda's butt cheeks? Well, first of all, no! No, it's not the story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What does matter is, of course, the multiplayer, the gameplay. That's what Mass Effect is all about. If you don't know that, you haven't been studying. And of course, as of late, Miranda, yes, she is what makes Mass Effect Mass Effect. So study this, know it for next week's test, and I'll see you in class.
So now that you properly understand that Mass Effect is actually not the role-playing game series that you think it is, let's get into the Horde Mode multiplayer. Now, Horde Mode has been really popular in multiplayer games around this era for a while, mostly thanks to Gears of War, which has probably the most popular Horde Mode of all time. And now you see Mass Effect take advantage of that. Now, what makes it really separate from the rest of the Horde modes out there in gaming? I think it's really the classes. When you go into the classes and you have that leveling up system straight from, of course, the single player version of Mass Effect, and you put it in multiplayer with all those progression systems, the ranking up, the picking between play styles, and of course, all the different races you can play as. I adore that so much. The ability to play as an Asari or a Drell. You just can't get that in the single player, and that's why multiplayer is superior. But really, there is a gameplay flexibility as all these classes are well thought out, they're built properly, they're efficient with different types of weapons, and they have completely different kits for you to utilize, and based off how you build said kit, your playstyle may differ from someone else in the same class. So whether you're a Sentinel, a Vanguard, an Engineer, a Soldier, an Adept, so on and so forth, there's a lot of options for you here in Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. So just messing around with all these classes, instead of replaying the single player version of the game and just going into a Horde mode, it works really well because what the multiplayer does is it shines a good old spotlight down on why Mass Effect's combat is actually so phenomenal. It's not just a single player game full of dialogue and great choices. What's really awesome about Mass Effect as well is its combat. For all Andromeda's issues, its combat was awesome. It felt great. And honestly, it really started with Mass Effect 3 where the combat felt good. So that's where I think multiplayer starts to take form, right? You've got this Horde mode, and then you pepper in a couple of objectives here. Activate this, hack that, sit in this circle here. But really at the core of it all, it's just play more Mass Effect. And to me, that is something that is so necessary because this was in an era where games sometimes felt the need to just jam in a little bit of multiplayer when they didn't have to, but you'd get those rare offshoot moments like Mass Effect 3 where it was great. In fact, it was wonderful. And the last time I had an experience like a Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was when I was testing Outriders. And when I played that game, I thought, wow, this reminds me a lot of Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. It's been that many years, okay? Plus, there's one thing really holding it back when I fired it back up and I said to a buddy of mine, hey, why don't you hop on?
Hi, how's it going? I'm here for the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer party.
May I see your online pass then, sir?
Online pass?
Yes, your online pass. You got one?
I don't have one. I thought those kind of got phased out years ago.
Sorry, sir. The only way you're getting in is if you got an online pass.
Okay, settle down. Can I just buy one?
Nope, not for sale. Looks like you're SOL.
So you're saying I need an online pass to get into the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer party, but you don't sell the online passes anymore, so if I didn't buy it years ago, I can't get in?
Yep, we sold it for a couple of years. You needed to get in, and now if you want to play, you can't. And we're not re-releasing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition multiplayer, so if you want to play it, you can only do it through backwards compatibility. But when no one can hop in, the multiplayer mode will be ostracized, and everyone will go to Apex Legends. Right, I'm a bodyguard.
Yep. Online pass is still necessary, and if you just for whatever reason said, I'm gonna spend 10 bucks on this and buy the online pass, you can't. There is no way to enter the multiplayer now if you did not previously do so, like myself and many others did. So if you're watching this and you say, I got Game Pass, I got EA Play, I'm gonna hop in onto that Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, guess what? You can't. So it's trapped. It's locked off, man. There's so many people who are never going to be able to experience it. Either this or take Andromeda's multiplayer, separate it from the game, and then release it on its own. But all the support for Andromeda's gone. At least they're supporting the original trilogy, which is why I'm saying, hey, let's bring back the 3 multiplayer. It would be well worth the effort. Now, I'll be honest, okay? I'll be fair. I'll be objective, okay? I'll humble myself for a moment here. Mass Effect 3 was one of the games that really started to help lead the charge with EA when it came to loot boxes. So Mass Effect 3 had your standard loot boxes. You were buying into these objects. You didn't know really what was inside of them. They were just rated by rarity, and that was kind of it. And so the good thing here is that per mission, you get a ton of credits. You get a lot of money, so you can buy these by just playing the game. Maddie in high school spent probably all extra money on them because I don't know why. Point being is it is there. It does exist. This is something that could definitely be augmented or overhauled or just removed the pay for option because it's kind of not necessary considering you get so many credits. But that dopamine rush really got Teenage Maddie good, and I was just like, cha-ching, cha-ching, yeah. Give me another loot box. Yeah. Now, the multiplayer modes are ranked by difficulty of bronze, silver, and gold. So obviously, as that progresses, it becomes more difficult. You'll start to face armored enemies, shielded enemies much sooner, and it will require a lot more team play, which is why it's kind of important that you can get your friends involved, whether it be in a private match or a public match. On top of all of that, you have a bunch of different maps that are kind of repurposed single-player campaign levels and then brought into the multiplayer, and they work pretty well. I mean, they're designed well where the locations of objectives are. It ends up being in a place where your team can hunker down, but you have to stay mobile. And because Mass Effect 3 was one of the more kinetic Mass Effect games, since there is a lot of motion there, of course, the cover mechanics, the swapping of cover, leaping over, vaulting over cover, and that being slick and smooth feels good. The only thing that kind of bothers me is, and it's always been an issue with Mass Effect, how close the camera is to your back. That can be a little bit cumbersome. I hope just with Mass Effect in its Legendary Edition entirely that they do just pull this sucker out just a little bit, because it is just right against Shepard's spine, and I would like that to change. But anyway, the maps themselves are well designed. There's modes within the Horde modes. There's different enemy types, whether you're fighting Cerberus or the Geth and so on and so forth on top of these difficulty levels, and they reward you properly. They give you tons of credits, and then you can just go into those loot boxes, those glorious loot boxes. I'm kidding, relax, okay? But inside those loot boxes, you're gonna get different weapons, different classes, class training to level them up. Then you can kind of do what Call of Duty does with prestiging them, and you can promote them, and they'll become even better versions of that class. So you can take on higher level missions and really just keep pushing it forward and forward. This also ties into galactic readiness. So there was a point in time where you actually needed to play a lot of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer to get the proper ending for Mass Effect 3. And so a lot of people said, I'm not touching it. To you, I give you a gigantic L because you missed out big time, but now could be your chance if BioWare listens. Point being though is a lot of people skipped out on it, but some, like myself, went, okay, I want to get the true ending here, and heavily indulged in that Horde mode. I mean, I spent weekends and weekends and weekends and weekends on this game, man. I adored the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. Between the classes, the options you have, the building, from the equipment that you can use to ammo packs, meta gels, of course, the things that you've seen inside the single player component, to the different races you can play as, the customization, the unlockables. It just feels great. And of course, there's also modding your weapons, so you can change attachments on them and augment your playstyle even a little bit more. Like I said, what Mass Effect 3 multiplayer does is successfully puts a good old spotlight down on that gameplay. Not to sound repetitive here, but that's really the goal of it all. And I think it works very well, because otherwise, what we're talking about, and rightfully so, is all the conversations and choices you can make, which should happen. But I don't think Mass Effect 3's gameplay just gets enough credit. It's really fun to play, especially with the Omniblade. I mean, you can carve people up, you can yank them over cover and stab them. Like, it's satisfying, man. It's satisfying combat with all those classes and options. So all I'm saying is, BioWare, if you happen to just, you know, stumble across this video by chance, let me just say, I don't know why I'm doing that. Let me just say that a lot of people would appreciate you considering bringing it back, or at the very minimum, like lifting the online pass from Mass Effect 3's current multiplayer and backwards compatible. Like, I was playing it on my Series X for this video. It was so good, not just because of the nostalgia, but it was very fun to play. And you know, if people could just get in, that'd be great. I had a buddy who wanted to hop in and he couldn't. That's horrible, man. That's horrible that your online pass is still barring people off. Now, there is Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer. That still exists. I don't know if the servers are on or not for that one. I imagine if 3's are on, Andromedas are on, but I honestly don't want to go back into Andromeda. So, Mass Effect 3 it is. Bring it back. Yeah. All right. I think I've rambled enough. I think I've done my job here today. So, I leave it in your hands. What do you think of Mass Effect 3 multiplayer? Have I made a strong case for this game? Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who support the crazy love I have for Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. I hope you share that. And with that, it's time for me to sign out. Stay sexy, stay active. Love you all. Peace.